Hi, this is Rohan Podar. I'm a storyteller to social good brands, and I run a blog called Creatively Unsettled. It's a place for ideas, insights, and storytelling for new age social entrepreneurship. Today, I have with me Ashwin Kurian. He's a product leader at Simpa Networks. They make solar home systems, affordable solar home systems, I must say, for energy poor households in India. And the way they distribute is that the systems is through a deferred payment model. And today I'll speak to him about that and much more. Hi, welcome, Ashwin.
Hi, Rohan. How are you doing?
Thanks for making time. And Ashwin joins us from Bangalore. Is that right?
So currently, I'm in Noida.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm at my place here. Yes.
Okay. Simpa is based in Bangalore, isn't it?
So Simpa had started its operations in Bangalore, and that was the pilot that we ran. And then we moved to the center, which is UP. I mean, a lot of electrification opportunities, a lot of energy access opportunity persists in UP. So we moved our operations back somewhere in 2013 into UP.
Okay, great. Ashwin, you are a product development guy.
Yeah.
I want to understand, I want to start off by understanding what is the differentiation of, or rather, how does product development in a social impact scenario differ from product development in general? And then
Right.
again, and then further to it, how does it apply to Simpa in particular?
Right. So I'll start with what product development really means at a basic level, and then I'll expand a little more about some of the peculiarities. So see, at its basic level, right, product development is, I think it's very simple to understand. It's if there is a need that you identify, right, all of the activities and things that you do in order to fulfill that need is product development, right? So essentially, if there's a need to brush your teeth, right, the entire activity of developing, the toothpaste for it, and in fact, it goes a little beyond that, making sure that that reaches your hands is part of the overall product development. But then you streamline that into very segmented specializations along the way. But at its core, it's just finding a need and choosing to serve it, and then serving it through a set of activities. So those activities altogether form product development.
Right, right. And how do you, so let's look at Simpa.
Right.
What are those challenges that you encounter when in the product development process for Simpa? Some really
Right.
broad ones that stand out.
Right. So I'll just give you a little more idea about. So let's take that what we defined right now, and let's take it one level deeper, right? So obviously, the simplistic definition is one thing. So you have to imagine that product development is, it's about getting the products, let's say, on this side after you've made them and after you think they're worth it, and then getting it to the market. So it's about the making of the product and then making sure that it can move to the market and fit there, essentially, right? Now, in this journey of moving here, what actually happens is that you have to make a lot of choices, right? And that choices will be governed to a great extent by what the aim of your firm is, what distribution channels you want to use and all. So let me simplify that a little more, right? So it need not, getting a product to a market might not be a profitable thing, right? And that's a choice that an organization can make, right? So Simpa specifically is a social enterprise that is for profit. So we try to bring out the product to the market in a very profitable, well, I won't say very profitable. The idea is we try to bring it out in a profitable manner. That's actually a pollster that we've chosen, because we believe that sustained impact, of course, would come about once you have a self-sustaining mechanism. And profit is, the profit motive can attract investment that can make large-scale impact possible. Right? So that's one of the choices that we made, which is for profit. So that's an example. Now, the journey from product to market also has a lot of things. These choices, they affect the type of product that you make. Right? So essentially what happens is, something as basic as, okay, which channel am I going to use? Am I going to go through the normal retail channel? In which case, you might have to consider things like, okay, would a retailer really want to put these products in their, in their shops where there's limited space, right? So even something such as that, thinking through that value chain, helps you understand that the product design itself can be informed by those constraints.
Right.
Right. So that's definitely a broader view. So product development is making all those choices along the way and then figuring out the best way to serve that market in this particular context. Now, a little more about Simpa. So what happened at Simpa is the first thing that we need to do is we need to make a choice of what product we need to make based on what market we need to serve. Right. So when we started Simpa's journey, the thing was we had to actually define whether there was a market or not, right? And how effectively we could serve it. So two different questions. So defining where the market is, you can choose, a small product, and these are meaningful, right? I mean, they make a big change in people's lives. Just light coming about to a person's home makes a difference, right? Or you could choose to make bigger products, right? So our entire exercise was very simple, right? So you don't know exactly where the market is. So the thing that we followed is we follow a lean methodology to understand what the market is, right? What exactly we want, and what exactly and how exactly to serve that. Right. So, for example, the products that we made initially, right, we weren't really certain where the market was. So first thing to do is that you have to find that out. And when you're in a startup, when you're in a social enterprise, which is a startup, right, the most valuable asset I personally feel is time. Right, it's not just money. It's not the flexibility that you have is very, very high during the initial stages, right? So you must use that particular amount of time to really define what is the right product. And what that means is that we need to immediately go out into the market and validate very, very quickly who our consumers really are,
Right.
Given the vision of the firm. So what we did was come out with minimum viable products, right? And what that means is it is not the perfect representation of your final finished good as you envision it, but it checks a lot of boxes in terms of its functionality, whether it's actually reliable, whether it's actually pulling out an aspirational need from the customer. So it ticks a lot of those boxes, and then you go to the market with it and see whether people are actually willing to pay for it. And once you're more confident that your consumers, your interpretation of what your consumers want, right, is in line with what you've developed, that's when you take it up and you go to the market with it.
Right. So, in this whole process of product development, prototyping, I assume, must be the most crucial.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's when you get the basic ingredients right.
Yes. So prototyping helps it helps converge people onto a particular point, meaning people can then specifically say, hey, I don't like this, or I like this about this product, right? Which is what is extremely helpful. That convergence around that artifact is what helps us improve definitively, right?
In a product development scenario for social impact,
right.
How different is the end user from, let's say, a
Yes.
consumer internet product or a technology product?
So I'll answer it like this, right? So I generally feel that the first principles, right, the fact that there is a need there, right, all that are the same, and that all of us as consumers, we lie on one continuum, right? What I have been surprised about, especially by the consumers in the rural market, is not really the fact that they are different, but how similar they are to us. And what I have had to readjust, and my team has had to readjust, is our conception of things. So I'll give you an example, right? And probably I'll ask you a couple of questions as well to make that evident, right? So if I gave you a choice, right, about whether to walk 3 kilometers in the heat, right, or spend 5 rupees on taking, some form of, transportation there, what would you choose?
Me personally,
Yeah.
I would choose to spend 5 rupees.
Okay, awesome, right? Now, the second question on that, right, is really, why did you do that? Why would you do that personally?
Uh, well, maybe I'm the wrong person to answer this, but from my perspective, it would make sense to spend 5 rupees, then
Right,
walk 3 kilometers in the sun, have my feet scarred,
right,
and have a sunstroke, and
right.
then come back home and then sleep the rest of the time, being not productive. So I would feel that that's a worthwhile expense to have. Yeah.
So that's great, right? So now a consumer, right? I won't use the word consumer. It's so distant, right? So the people that we serve, right? They would, what they would choose, okay, by and large, is to walk those 3 kilometers. Okay. Now I'll follow that up with a question. What is your first assumption on why they do that?
Why they did that? Why
Yeah, yeah.
these?
What occurs to you first?
Uh, uh, s-
Why do you think they walked and not spent that 5 rupees?
so clearly, 5 rupees are dearer to them than they are to me.
Yeah,
Uh, that's a no-brainer, though. The
right,
second could be that maybe when they walk, they socialize on the way.
right, right, right,
Maybe they meet people whom they wouldn't meet if they would not walk. I'm not sure if they walk because of health benefits. Because
right. Yeah,
but,
I'm pretty certain it's not.
but that's yeah. I mean, that's what I would think. And
Yeah. So I'll tell you how we saw that particular thing, right? So what we realized is that, what we initially like to think is that it's all about affordability, right? It's all about saving those 5 rupees. What we have found out is that that is not always the case, right? It is their conception of time that really matters, right? So for you, you said that you like to save time, right? For them, they have the time and they find that this is probably the best use for it. So it's not a matter of them actually worrying about the expenses necessarily, but it's also a matter of how they perceive time. So which is why I said we might make those incremental steps. So the first thing that we do when we go into a market with our mindset is we don't realize necessarily that this is how they perceive time, right? And then they trade that off with this thing. But what we have a tendency to do is reduce everything down to money, right? Which is not exactly the best way.
right. Yeah, that's what I said. I'm the wrong end user, but now that you said that, it really makes a lot of sense.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So
So it's like, if I have a lot of time, I would want to expand my activities to fill up that time.
right, right, exactly. So this is one thing, right? And there are two other hypothetical things that I can put across to you, right? So I'll ask that and makes for a better conversation that way. So let's say that you're in the village, right? And you're a shopkeeper there, and you have a choice to make, right? So you have the mechanical balances, right? Which are ultra reliable. They've been used for generations and all of that. And you have, on the other hand, you have electronic balances, right? Now the electronic balances of course require electricity or some sort of energy supply to keep them going, right? So given the conditions in the village, what would you opt for a mechanical balance, or would you opt for what would you opt for the electronic machine?
So if I know
Just
that,
your first instinct.
yeah, so I think I'll go for mechanical,
Right,
because I'm not sure if the electricity will be there when I want to do my business or when I want to
right,
do a particular transaction. So
right.
I guess, yeah, that will be my answer. Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that we discovered by actually spending time very, very close to our customers is that our perception of what is valued is also something that we have to see, right? So what we have found is a general trend to move towards electronic machines, and I'll explain why. Right. So what happens generally in the process of a transaction at the shop is they load up, let's say, 2 kgs of, I don't know, let's say some commodity, right? On one side, let's say it's rice, right? And then what happens is the customer then says, thoda aur dalo, maybe just put a little more, right? And
Yeah.
in that little more, waiting for that balance to tip, right? The shopkeeper knows that he's losing out a little more, right? So what they do is they get these electronic balances to show the customer that you have asked for 1 kg and you're getting exactly that 1 kg, right?
Interesting.
And we're throwing in 10 grams more perhaps, okay, just to make you happy, but they're saving a lot more. So the way we framed the question to ourselves, right, is, one is reliable and the other is not, but the entire dynamic of that equation there is very, very different. It's what helps
And
that
I'm sure
shop.
the responses to these questions must be really changing your perspective on your end users,
Oh
and in
yes,
turn, of course,
yes.
changing the product features.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, and it's getting close to our customers and understanding, really observing this, right? That was key to understanding that. Otherwise, if you go with textbook knowledge and you go to the field and you make a proposition, right? I mean, you can get it right to a certain extent, but then you won't be able to succeed beyond that, right? And you could make catastrophic failures, especially if you have not used a minimum viable, product, and if you've spent like 2 years developing out something, right? It'll be very, very costly to figure this out at the end.
So, Ashwin, I'm very curious to know, can you name one such insight that you gained while researching for for Simpa's solar home systems that kind of made you really question your assumptions to start with?
Right,
Maybe
right.
one of them. You can just share one of them whether that probably changed your insights.
So, I mean, the two examples that you gave actually, right? They actually, so the example of the electronic weighing machine, right? So what actually happened is we at Simpa, we realized this, right? We realized this early on. Okay, so this was actually an insight that came out of consciously trying to achieve these insights. So what we did is we developed something called the SPX line, right? Now to the outside world, this was just a panel, right, that produces energy, right? What we decided was, yes, there is a lot you can learn by finding what existing panel users do, right? But then we also realized that when we package this panel with finance, we are accessing a part of the population which probably wasn't accessed before, right? So we understood that even in that population, there will be people who want to do a lot of things but couldn't because of affordability issues earlier. So now what we did is we just released the panel with the specific intent of understanding what the early adopters would do, right? This electronic weighing machine example actually came about as a specific task. So once we deployed it into the market, we actually found out what our customers valued and how they use this particular thing, right? So I, I think what we found out is go out there, and a deeper insight that I've found is that if you actually give these people the ability, they themselves will find ways to use it in ways that you can't even possibly imagine. So one of the things I have learned at an even higher meta level is if you build the boat, the people will come, right? And that's definitely something that humbles you, because you know then at that point that you don't know enough,
Right.
right? So I think that's a deeper insight you can back.
Wow, fantastic. This is so interesting, and I wish I can talk longer, but
Yeah.
I guess I'll move on. Ashwin, what are some of the lessons that you have learned over your stint over last 3 years, maybe, that you've been with Simpa,
Right.
right?
Um,
What are some of those lessons that you've learned? I mean, it could be a personal
well,
lesson, it could be a professional lesson.
um, so I've learned so much along the way. So it's incredible, and we've applied a lot of ourselves also. So one of the things. One of the things that I was very grateful for was the fact that whatever you do, right, is at Simpa, right, there was such a sense of ownership, right? And this is a very, very difficult thing to manufacture artificially, because I worked in a bigger organization before this, and I loved Mott McDonald. It taught me the very fundamentals of program project management and all of that, right? So in Simpa, what happened is you had to own everything end to end. You were responsible for, you were not a smaller cog in the machine. You were actually probably the cog in that particular part, responsible for delivering something very important to the organization, right? So what happened, I think, was understanding better your internal dialogue was definitely something that happened in Simpa. And one of the things I really came to value is the potency of choice, and I'll explain that a little deeper, right? So in Simpa, you see, when we are trying to serve the market, right, we come across extreme conditions, and we are supposed to make extreme decisions based on those constraints, right? And it is in these extreme decisions that you actually discover who you are as a person, right? So I remember, a couple of times when we had to turn around, products really, really rapidly, because we felt that, okay, the market is going somewhere and we need to follow it, and we need to be quick about this, right? And we need to bring that about very, very quickly, like time scales that are logarithmically, exponentially less than what a product development organization works on, right? So the thing is, it's easy to sit back and say, okay, guys, this is not the normal time frame to develop it. But the thing is, we all wanted to hit the market. So the one thing it taught me was, hey, how do I motivate my own team to get there, right? And I realized that the stick is not definitely the thing that's going to get you there. But when they own their own piece of it, and they believe that, I am the one who's supposed to do this, right? When that motivation comes intrinsically, I have found that people surprise you. And I've realized that as a leader, my job is not to say that, okay, you have to do this or that or this thing. It's getting them the conditions that would enable them to bring out the best in themselves, right? And your job is to facilitate that and to give them courage whenever they come across tough times. So it's grooming the next level of people as well. I think that's been my key learning, if I take a summary. And then there are, of course, the domain specific things. But I think as a person, for me, this was exactly what I looked for. It's definitely a crucible of character, and it therefore it moved me personally on a very spiritual journey through the work. So it was a thing where my professional and my personal growth actually just skyrocketed. It gave me the opportunity to do that.
Right, right. That's amazing, Ashwin. And I think we had a great discussion today on aspects related to product development. And I really thank you again for your time. Wish I could have discussed longer, but I would have to wrap it up. And thanks again.
Sure.
Have a good day.
Really nice speaking to you.
Bye bye.
Cheers. All the best.